You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast. The number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, American Football Australia head office with Wade, NFL Australia head office with the girls up there, the ABC studios, worldwide. Joining us, as always, in the west wing of his palace, at Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, mate?
Just adding some final notes into the doc. Just really can't help myself here, can I?
Nah. Love it. Love it. You're all over it.
Always, mate. Always. You know me. Always ready to fight.
That better be good stuff. Also joining us from his palace, you can tell the Bills Mafia is going very, very well. Melbourne's Bill Mafia man, Charlie Pickering. How are you, mate?
Very good. Very good today. Obviously, we'll get to it later. I don't need to add anything to the doc because I've already written an epic to talk about it. So, look, you guys will just have to wrap me up, the more I want to talk about the game today. But great day of football.
I'll be sitting here tapping on the watch. We have gone early because looking at the doc, you have a 27-minute segment just for yourself. So look forward to that one. All the Bills Mafia will be up and about. But it started all the way back on Thursday night football. Danny boy, your team, the Birds, got a pretty big win in the scheme of the season against the Commanders.
Yeah, as far as the NFC East concerned, it was a very important win for the Eagles there. But honestly, this podcaster's curse. I've got to stop. We've got to stop talking about the Eagles because I was saying that the Eagles' offense is absolutely locked in at the moment. We're doing great, and the defense is playing championship football. Defense still looks good. Don't get me wrong, but the offense was lackluster for the first 3 quarters. Completely uninspired. There was nothing going for it. And then Hurts took a massive hit. Probably got a concussion. Managed to weasel his way through the concussion protocol. He literally had grass coming out of his helmet. He wasn't in a good shape. But yeah, it wasn't really until the fourth quarter that the Eagles really turned it around. Saquon Barkley, once again, saving our souls. 146 rushing yards and 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Absolutely elite. And then, the Reed Blankenship with a really important interception late in the game there, which would have actually stopped. It did stop a Commanders touchdown. The Commanders, are just looking. They're looking good. They're looking like they got the potential to take that next step. They just might not be there yet. And I think we're noticing that more when they're facing up these harder sides. And as we always said, I've got the biggest crush on the Commanders and I stand by it, but they might just need a few more games, years, reps with this side before they're actually making a, proper dent.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge win for you guys going forward. Charlie, the Commanders still have to be pretty happy with the FSO, surely.
I think so. I mean, anytime you've got a rookie QB and a team that is at really year one of a proper rebuild, they're going from the ground up. And the fact is they hold their own against a team like the Eagles who, they've played in a Super Bowl in very recent memory. They've got an all-star offense, just on paper, the kind of weapons that they've got. I think you're right. The offense should be popping more than it was definitely in the first half of the game. So, if you're a Commanders fan, you're playing with house money pretty much this season. You've already had all your dreams come true in that you've got one of the 2 standout quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, and you're going to be good for a few years. And it's really just that, they need to be able to stop a team like the Eagles that, when they start to get it going and start to come back, they just need to develop different ways of stopping an offense that's coming at them like that. But yeah, nothing to be ashamed of there at all. I do wonder about this inconsistency in the Eagles. So maybe I'm too harsh on the Eagles, but I just think their roster is too good to have the flat, whole quarters where they just can't put it together. I don't quite understand why after 11 weeks it's still looking like that.
And that's completely rightfully so. I couldn't agree more. There's something missing. There's a spark missing on offense until they kind of put themselves in a hole or it took them 9 games to score in the first quarter. And ever since then, I think that was the only time they got 1 field goal. And then since then, they haven't scored early on in games. It takes them a while to play into form. And you're exactly right. It's a star-studded offensive roster. And the offensive line are doing incredible. If the offensive line weren't doing so well, Barkley's not running for as much as he is. Yes, he's incredible, but the offensive line, everyone was like, as soon as Kelsey's out, like, what are they going to do? He's calling all the plays. Cam Jurgens and stuff, they've absolutely stepped up. They're like, it is, yeah, I guess maybe is it falling on Jalen Hurts? Is it falling on Nick Sirianni? I'm not too sure at this point. But yeah, they need to be firing for all 4 quarters. Otherwise, you're not going to go as far as you want to.
I think, and the Packers are definitely going to be saying this today. Later on, I'll mention it, that a dirty win is still a win, like you're still getting the wins that you need to. And I think that big jersey in the background of you, mate, he was pretty big to have back in the team as well.
Oh, always, man. Anytime you get Jordan there, like, he is a monster of a human being. Just absolute awe of him. But yeah, super happy to have him back in the lineup. Makes a big difference.
Yeah. No, you take the W's when they come. It doesn't matter how you get them. You do have time to turn it around, even though last year you lost the last 6 and shit the bed. But we won't dwell on that. It's a new year, new game. And we say it every week, we got to back Saquon until he gives us a reason not to. So we've got to back him again next week because he dominated. The Steelers have arguably, I think, the biggest win of the season, even though there was another couple of big wins today. I think this is up there with one of the biggest wins of the season, definitely in the AFC North, getting the job done against the Ravens. Charlie, am I overstating that kind of win?
No, I don't think so at all. And maybe it's a bit about our perception outside the Steelers compared to the perception inside the Steelers. I think coming into the season, a lot of people were like, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have 1 quarterback, and there was like a lot of consternation over playing Wilson or playing Fields, and they've done extremely well so far this season. I think surprised a lot of people, but this one was big. And I think if we check the tape from the last time I came on to chat with you guys, the difference was going to be the Steelers' defense in the end, and I think it was. I think I even said you get enough pressure on Lamar Jackson and he stops looking like that leader in the MVP race. And that's what the Steelers did. I think you have to take them, very, very seriously from here on in, and you underestimate them at your peril. And I think, thankfully, for keeping things interesting in the AFC, a few little cracks starting to show in the Ravens, a few questions about how they, down the stretch, how they're going to perform. And even in the limited time that 3 Aussie guys like you and I have taken an interest in NFL, no one cares that you were running hot week 4 to week 9. It's all how you come home, and it's what you do in the playoffs. And I'm sure it's not the last we've heard of the Ravens, but there are some big question marks there.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Danny, I will throw to you, don't stress. But it is the last 2 or 3 years, it's the team that's the last 6 weeks that's running hot, run into the playoffs, and they're the team that either make it to the Super Bowl or will go all the way. Danny boy, King Henry did score, but he had his first fumble in something like 560-odd carries. Under 90-yard rush. You called it 4 weeks ago. If you keep him under 90-yard, you win the game. Today was that.
Yeah, today was that, but it's also the Steelers just completely have the Ravens number, which didn't realise when we were previewing it. So 7 out of the last 8 matchups now, the Steelers have got the dub. And they did it today without scoring a touchdown. They were all field goals. Went 6 field goals to get past this Ravens, which we were touting as quite like an elite offense, but it was an elite offense facing up against an even better defense, and the defense obviously came out on top. But now Lamar Jackson has more MVP awards than he does victories against the Steelers.
Great stat.
Great stat.
Danny, how worried are the Ravens after this loss? Because they do have to play them again. That was in Pittsburgh, if I am right. Yeah, because they meet them again at M&T Bank Stadium later in the year, week 16, I think it is. How worried are they after this kind of loss, Danny?
Yeah, if they want to be taken out of the division, you got to be looking a little bit nervous now. Like, the best you can do against the Steelers team is 1-1. Realistically, if they're the number 1 now in the division, you really wanted to take them down early in this first one, so the second one you could almost ease into. But now the pressure's on, like twice as much. Yes, you're going to be playing them at home, but against that defense, is it going to make that much of a difference? I don't think so.
Nah, they're number 1 I reckon they're not number one rushing because the Ravens are the number one rushing defense. But Najee Harris actually had a day out, 60-odd plus yards. So they beat him on both sides of the ball. So Russ, 4-0, Charlie, as the Steelers QB.
Yeah, I think if we check the tape again, I did say that I thought he was washed. One of my first ever appearances on the podcast. So he's proven me wrong. Like I will say, I'm actually very surprised that he, has fit in that well into that offense. But he can do special things when he has to, and I think they're built well around him. But we'll see from here. It does definitely change things. The way we were talking about the Ravens is near invincible a few weeks ago, and now it is an uphill. Like they really have to get everything right to win their division at this stage. So it's going to be a harder run home than I think they were expecting.
And I reckon, like you said before, that not everyone was getting around the Steelers, and they've just quietly been going about their business. So they'll be very happy with where they're sitting up in Pittsburgh. The biggest. Danny?
Just on the Ravens quickly, just for the next 4 games as well. You got the Chargers, which just came off a very hot victory against the Bengals. I don't know if you guys are live on that one.
And very much.
Then the Eagles.
Actually, can we just say, as a live exciting thing, the Chargers just actually got a touchdown in the last minute to seal a game. I mean, I don't remember the last time that happened. They did everything they could to lose this one, but Herbert's come back right at the end. But anyway.
Yep. Big win. We'll touch on it in a second. Keep going, Danny boy.
No.
Yeah, so they've got the Chargers, which we will touch on in a bit. But then they've got the Eagles. Giants should be a win. But then they're straight up facing against the Steelers again. So it's not like they've got an easy run back to the Steelers. No. It's if they drop 50% of those games before you're facing the Steelers again, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's what we like to see. We've had a tight season so far, and we thought they were going to top 2 running away, but looks like they're slowly coming back to the pack, with especially one of the biggest wins coming out of the AFC East. Charlie, I know you're very excited. The Miami Dolphins getting the job done today against the Raiders.
Just great to see Coach McDaniel finally getting it clicking. And
no, we're obviously talking about
enjoying his football again. So.
Yes. No, Josh Allen getting the job done, ending the Chiefs' 15-game win streak. 46 weeks, including the off-season, since they've actually lost a game, which is huge to think.
Yeah. And also, not the only streak that ended. Obviously, they were 9-0 this year. They now have a loss, which makes things a little interesting. But also, the Chiefs haven't allowed more than 28 points against them for the last 30 games. So that's actually a big deal. And I will say, we will talk about the offense, obviously, because it's Allen and Mahomes. But defensively, it was a really exciting game as well. 2 great defenses. I think 2 defenses that you would gladly take with you into a playoff run. And they both caused headaches for either side. But in the end, the Bills, I think, had the edge. They got an interception on the second play of the game, Taylor Rapp, and then Terrell Bernard with another interception to seal it up at the end. And Von Miller even making some great plays, showing that he's still got enough spark to really, cause the opposition a headache. But obviously, when it's Allen and Mahomes, that's the exciting part. And Mahomes played a really good game, but Josh Allen just did something else altogether. I think he had one interception, and it was a bad throw, and obviously a mental error. But other than that, he played a near perfect game, and the offense really rotated the run and the passing well. And I was worried about the Bills' pass catchers coming into this. Keon Coleman was out. Dalton Kincaid was out. Amari Cooper came in with an injured wrist, and the word was he was a last-minute inclusion, but played with actually a cast on his wrist. And then on the first Bills drive of the game, he actually caught a long ball out on the sideline for 30 yards with that injured left hand with the cast on it, one-handed. And I think that actually changed the complexion of things. The Chiefs had to start worrying about Cooper perhaps more than they expected to. We got going with the run. James Cook had 2 touchdowns, well complemented by Davis and Taron Johnson. The Bills' top runner was Josh Allen, 55 yards off 12 carries at 4.6 yards per carry. And the big one was when they're 4th and 2 at about the 2-minute 10 mark at the Chiefs 26. He heads off and scores a touchdown. He ran through about 5 or 6 Chiefs players. Skip Bayless has already referred to it as the play of the season. I think Saquon Barkley would probably have something to say about that. But it was one of those moments where Josh Allen put himself right back in the MVP conversation. I actually hate mid-season MVP talk because it doesn't mean anything. And one week, Josh Allen's out. Next one he's in. Now Lamar's out. He'll be back next week. But this was the kind of play that people will remember. And another little record I will mention before I shut up and you guys can talk is that with that touchdown, Josh Allen has passed O.J. Simpson to become outright the all-time second on the all-time Bills rushing touchdown list behind only Thurman Thomas, Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas, which is a pretty amazing given we're maybe nearing the middle of Josh Allen's career. There's some incredible stats that he's building. And this game, I would say, it makes a very good argument that he is still in contention for MVP. We can chat a bit about what it means for the AFC race in general, but it was, one of those games of football that, really you get rewarded. For being a football fan and watching games like this, it really was great.
It was good to have a game where you could just sit back and watch it and enjoy it. Being a neutral supporter, I don't think Mahomes. You said he played a pretty good game. I think he'll be pretty disappointed with how he played. Two interceptions. He threw one early, threw one late. He hasn't been in great form. Everyone's said that. He said that coming into the game, and that was going to be the big test. And I think it showed that he's been playing with a little bit of house money, as you said before, just getting a few wins that probably shouldn't have last week against Bo Nix and the Broncos. His luck's obviously run out, but they're not going to be too disappointed about it. I think it could have been a loss that they almost needed, just to kind of get a few players, kick them in the guts, and say we are not invincible. We're not getting these wins for no reason. We've got to turn our shit around. And like Kelsey, you had Kelsey pretty much covered. I don't know what he ended up with, but I saw him 2 catches maybe for the day.
I think it was 2. And I would say that that's the first time we've played the Chiefs that we've managed to shut Kelsey down. And I think that I'll have to watch the All-22, but it looks like they figured some things out with Kelsey. I will say Mahomes and Worthy, it felt like they were starting to connect. And I think that's good news. And I think he made some passes there. But Hopkins wasn't the factor that, he should have been in a game like this. I think what really hurt the Chiefs was with Pacheco out, it was only Kareem Hunt really running it, and it just wasn't enough. And it was a day where you didn't need to get 250 yards out of your running backs, but you had to, with these offenses, like in these 2 quarterbacks, your running game has to be working to make it hard for the opposition defense. And I think that was a pretty important difference.
Danny boy, the Bills are now 4-1 in the normal season against Mahomes in the Mahomes Allen era. Mahomes did say to him, "I'll see you in the pointy end of the season." Do you reckon that's just a little reminder to Josh Allen that we've got you covered in the back end?
Well, yeah. So it's all good and well. Josh Allen can go out and win MVP this year. Great. If he doesn't beat the Chiefs and Mahomes in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl, that's what everyone's going to remember him for. They're not going to remember him whether he got an MVP or not. If he can't get past Mahomes and gets the Super Bowl, that's the one and only goal, right, of every single player out there, is to get to that big dance and hopefully take the Lombardi home.
The one issue I'd take with that quickly is I don't think Josh needs to be reminded that he hasn't beaten Mahomes in the playoffs. I don't think that reminder was necessary at all.
Well, I love the little mind games about it, though. It looked pretty well. Yeah, I love you, man. Good work. Keep healthy, all that kind of things. But just a little bit of we'll see in the back end, and we've got you covered there. I liked it.
Yeah, but the Chiefs are going to have to do a fair bit of work. Like you said, they've got a few lucky wins, a few easy wins earlier in the season, but Mahomes said it in his post-game. This is the perfect reminder of why we need to be playing better football. I need to be better. We need to be better as a team, especially offensively. And that's where it's kind of been letting themselves down. They've only barely gotten by a few teams that they should have absolutely smoked. It will be real interesting to see whether they actually take that on the chin, turn around and improve. It is Andy Reid running this team, so chances are they're probably going to do that. But it's going to be very interesting to see the way they close out the season, because that will make a difference moving forward.
There is getting to the way they close out the season. They're now 9-1. The Bills are 9-2. Now it's extremely unlikely that the Panthers take out the Chiefs next week, but the Bills have the bye. It's conceivable that pretty soon these teams have matching records going forward, which means the 1 seed, which everyone was starting to think was done and dusted for the Chiefs, it is up for grabs again. And that makes things perhaps a little bit more interesting coming home. If the Bills do manage to get that 1 seed, and we're looking at an AFC championship game in Buffalo, that is where we'll finally, we either put it to rest or we don't, from the Bills' point of view. So it will be interesting. I really, let's go Carolina next week. I think this is the week they turn around.
And that could be the greatest swing, right? That could be the greatest swing, you actually playing in Buffalo, and that could be the complete game changer. But we just hopefully get to see it happen.
The Chiefs won't be scared of playing in the cold, though. They had, minus 10 degrees when they losing fingers last year. So that's not going to be an issue. And they do have Pacheco starting practice this week. Whether he's back, you're probably not playing him against the bye being, the Panthers, but maybe the week after, and we'll see what happens there. You mentioned MVP race, and a man who's thrown his name right back in there after Danny Boy booted him out a couple of weeks ago. Jared Goff leads the Lions to another 50-point game, and I think it's their third 35-point-plus win or fourth of the season, which is a record to this point. Surely, Danny Boy, they are the best team in football at the moment. Who's going to actually be able to stop them besides the Packers?
So the Packers can barely get past teams in their division, as we saw today, but I'm assuming we'll touch on that in a little bit. Definitely not the Packers. They ain't going to be them. It's I don't know who can stop them at this point. They are playing some incredible football. We've said it time and time again. Dan Campbell has built an incredible continuity of the team, like energy. Everyone's bought in. It's great. It's great to see, and it's great to see them performing so well. Both running backs scoring for a combined 3 touchdowns between them. St. Brown scoring. Everyone was scoring. It was great. It was just it's good to see the Lions do well.
7 offensive touchdowns. Huge.
7 is nuts.
Charlie, did you get to see much of the game?
I did. I got to see a bit of it. They're an absolute wagon at the moment. Once again, it's and I'm not in any way expecting to jinx the Lions. I think they're the real deal, and if they're not playing in the Super Bowl, I think it'll be a shock. But once again, a very hot start to the season. Very few teams can maintain that for an entire season. Maintain that level. So, can the Lions do it? That's the big question. And is there anyone on the AFC side that can beat them in a Super Bowl? It's going to, it's just very exciting, and there's no team whose success you want more except your own team.
No, I'd be pretty happy if they didn't. But one thing
I said, except your own team. Come on.
Yeah, they did. The own division changes things. They did lose. I want to say, how do you say that? Analonzi, the big defensive back, big blonde-haired defensive back. They did lose him with a broken forearm. He looks to be out 6 to 8 weeks as well. So it's the offensive side is flying, and they will be very exciting come playoffs. High scoring, good for everyone punting. But defensively, they're losing numbers, which could hurt them going forward. That's where I think teams are going to be able to get him. You're going to have to go high-octane offense against high-octane offense. Jared Goff, though, is the first QB ever to have a multiple 400-yard passing 4-touchdown game with a rating of 158.3. He did have it in a pretty famous game against the Chiefs when he played for the Rams, where it was 52-48 or something like that. Yeah, the highest scoring game ever. So he is firing on all cylinders. And Danny Boy, you picked him in the MVP mid-year when we didn't have Charlie because he didn't like it race, but you might be spot on there.
Yeah, he is firmly got a seat at the MVP table, doesn't he? He sat down and he's probably on to his main course. Maybe starting to look at desserts. I don't reckon he's getting kicked off that table anytime soon.
No, No. A few other games we're just going to touch on quickly. My Packers, we have mentioned that they only just held on. Probably shouldn't have. Realistically, the Bears probably should be disappointed that they actually lost this game because they were in control for a fair portion of it. But we did block a field goal, which is the first time in history that it's happened 2 weeks in a row. So huge, not the same team, two different teams, but a walk-off field goal that has been blocked. I was pretty happy with a win. I'm not going to lie to you. I did watch a fair portion of the game, and we just didn't. Our best quarter was our last quarter, where we came from behind to tie it up. Especially late, we had a big pass down the field to Watson, who only had 4 catches, but over 150 yards, which he's the deep threat. That's what he's there to do. One thing I did worry about, we scored with 3 minutes to go. We scored way too quickly to give them a chance to come back and kick that field goal, which they did ultimately miss. It was in Chicago. We do hold 11 straight wins against them now, which is the most out of any team against another team. So, look, a win's a win. I'm going to take it. But, yeah, you're right, Charlie. It's not the best win that we've had this season.
Oh,
a win's a win, though, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Thanks, boys. Both of you. You did well.
Yeah, we feel for you. We feel for you. You know.
Yeah. Nah, good. Another game, Danny boy.
It means we can't say that the Packers are the biggest disappointment of the season. You know, I don't think.
Surely,
after the way
Caleb
they finished
Williams,
last year.
Surely Caleb Williams is the biggest disappointment so far. The hype that he had early to what he's produced now. Like, he played pretty well today, but in patches, I guess he's still a rookie QB, but the way that the Bears fans have been getting into me about how good he is, he's not.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you look back, there was so much hype around him, but also a lot of people weren't sold. Like, it was pretty split. And I think one thing that a lot of people found a bit surprising was how early the Bears declared it. You know, like, it was just so known that they were taking Williams. And it's quite conspicuous. They should have been doing their homework on Jaden Daniels a bit more than than settling on Caleb Williams, you know.
Go, Danny. Go with it.
Or Bo Nix, right? So I'm just going to skip you here, T-Mac. Bo Nix and the Broncos absolutely blew away the Falcons. Bo Nix completed 28 of 33 for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, and no one's talking about it. In the past 4 games, Bo Nix is averaging 257 yards and he's thrown 11 touchdowns. Caleb Williams is averaging 175 yards and thrown 0 touchdowns. And then Daniels, which is like the next best thing for offensive rookie of the year, is only at 232 yards and 4 touchdowns. So the past 4 games, Bo Nix is blowing them out of the water. And like you're saying, Charlie, for a lot of these awards, it really comes down to the way you close out the season. No one's really remembering too much that you did between week 1 and week 6 if you suck for the rest of the season. So if you're coming in at an average rate and then really improving towards the end, that's what's going to get you votes.
Could not agree more, Danny boy. And I think I've been saying it from the very start that Bo Nix is the future. I've loved Bo Nix and the Broncos. No, I did say he had a few years up his sleeve to get himself right, but shit, we've got to give him his kudos. He's come out and he's been exciting to watch as well. Like, the way he plays the game and the weapons that he does have. Jerry Jeudy's getting plenty of it. Sutton's getting plenty of it. It's good to watch. It's good football. And mate, the Falcons, on the other hand, Charlie, I reckon I said it to you, Danny boy, quietly, but Charlie, Kirk sucked against everyone that's not the Bucks, I think.
Yeah,
he's banged up.
He's banged up, like, and it's that, like, he's at but he's at an age where, and also I think you put him in just the over 40 Achilles injury bucket with Aaron Rodgers. I think we're learning that for older men, coming back from an Achilles,
it's hard.
Takes longer, and if you come back at all, if you ever get your mobility at a professional sport level, but yeah, it is a tough watch. That's what, Kirk Cousins is a tough watch this season. Atlanta are pretty rough, and they had some flashes early in the season that they were gonna be better than this, but it does look very tough. The other thing to come out of the Broncos game in general is you almost felt like Sean Payton was on a bit of a hot seat. Just that, the Broncos were struggling enough that there could be some questions about Payton as a coach. But now there's enough promise there that he probably keeps his job. You know,
100% he's
if
keeping
they
his
keep
job.
going like this.
Yep.
And then you have to say that given how much money the Broncos are still paying Russell Wilson, they're doing very, very well to be competitive with how little cap space they have, what they're working with. You know, I think they're doing a good job, and they definitely, Bo Nix suits what they're trying to do.
He's bringing excitement to the building, and it's good to see. But you're right, the amount of money that they are forking out, they're still being competitive. I think they still see themselves in playoff race, which is huge. I think they're 6-5 now, and competitive in that. What are they? AFC West.
AFC West, yeah.
Especially now that your boys got a win against the Chiefs. Another big win in the NFC West, Danny boy. The Seahawks getting a huge W against the 49ers. But the biggest thing to come out of this game is it's going to stuff up your bet going forward because the Cardinals are now favourites.
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about that because that was a really, really juicy one that I jumped on at the start of the season, picking who was going to win each division, and every other team is well and truly ahead, apart from the 49ers, which are now last in the NFC West. Yes, it's a super tight division, and it's only one game splitting. Like, you know, they were top last week, and now with the Cardinals getting a win and then the 49ers losing, like it's just a switch around, isn't it? So they went from first to fourth, and vice versa. It really looks like, though, you take away Bosa from the 49ers defense. He went out late in the fourth. Then they've just got no defense. The 49ers just didn't have anything. They couldn't stop the Seahawks coming back at them. And it was within the last couple of minutes in that final drive, Geno just did kind of whatever he wanted. And then at the very end, rushes for 15 yards for a walk-in touchdown to take away the game. Some questions are going to have to be asked in the 49ers world, because that's just not good enough football.
Yeah, they scored 2 touchdowns after Bosa went off, so it just shows how big of a loss he is on their side. Charlie, no George Kittle on the offensive side as well, so I feel like they're going to turn around and say, we had our injury problems, Bosa went off, Kittle out, possibly out next week as well, even though he was on the sidelines. Is it just a case of they're losing too many soldiers this season?
Possibly. I mean, I think Kittle being out becomes a real problem when you're missing Ayuk as well. The Ayuk is a very big hole in that offense, which means they need to rely on Kittle, and without him, they don't have those big playmakers. Samuel's been okay, not world beating, and so I think maybe they don't have the horses on the paddock. At the same time, show me a team in the NFL who isn't missing 1, 2, 3 receivers at the moment. Most receiver rooms have been really, really damaged throughout the season. So I don't think you can make those excuses at this point. I think maybe they've got some holes, but also I think the bigger question, I think it is the defense. It's part of why the Niners were scary last year is you just didn't want to come up against their defense. And it really, that was it made such a difference throughout the season, particularly in the playoffs.
Yeah, plenty of questions for them going forward, so it'll be interesting to see how they go, whether they can turn it around. CMC did look good coming back again week 2, so look, they're not out of it, especially being such a tight race in the NFC West, but some questions to be asked. And the game we spoke about before, just quickly, the Chargers winning with 20 seconds left, throwing a touchdown. Herbert and the Chargers are looking absolutely elite. Didn't have the greatest second half, but the first half put 27 on the Bengals. Charlie, it's just not the Bengals season. They seem to be playing elite offensive football, but their defense just can't stop teams from scoring.
Yeah, but also elite offensive football for a couple of quarters a game. They're either slow starters or bad finishes on offense. And I would hate to come up against Burrow and Chase at any time. They're a terrifying combo. But when they don't have the defense doing the job, they are in a lot of trouble. If you're a Bengals fan, and I'm friends with a few Bengals fans, it's been so deeply frustrating this season. They were a bit of a mess going into the season. Not everyone was signed up. Not everyone was playing OTAs. Injuries to Burrow coming in. They weren't settled. it didn't feel like, and I still think that they lack that consistency now because it doesn't feel like they've gelled. But when they do get it right, they can still ruin your afternoon. I haven't written them off yet, but they don't look the way they should. And I guess you have a question then, how long do Burrow and Chase really, if they feel that they don't have the horses on the paddock, don't have the right roster, how long do they hang around in their careers if the notoriously cheap owners of the Bengals don't come to the party? How about that?
Yeah.
Couple of $100 million, not enough to own.
Not enough to own. And Danny Boy, the Chargers are sneaky good, like top 5 in the AFC, kind of good.
Yeah, so this has to come down to coaching, doesn't it? Like Jim Harbaugh has come in there, and a Chargers team, they've already got more wins than they did last season at this point. And then the whole last season, he's come in and he's leading this team, and it's what he's done. It's what he did in Michigan. It's what he did everywhere that he went when he was with the 49ers. He turned a losing side into a winning side. That's just what he does. He's just an excellent head coach and creates an incredible culture, and everyone buys in. So it's hard to argue against it. The Chargers have definitely flown under my radar for sure this season. No doubt about that. And then watching them today, yes, there was a field goal miss by the Bengals late in the fourth, which definitely could have changed a little bit of the swing of it. Instead, they turned the ball over on the 35, 40-yard line. Take that away, maybe it's a different game. Who knows? It didn't happen, though. And the Chargers just continue to have enough to get it done. I think Herbert's looking the best he's ever looked as well.
Yeah, not as much pressure on him to be throwing 400 yards a game like he was in his first 4 or 5 seasons. So huge for them, and it's exciting to see. And again, keeping that AFC West race alive with the loss today, the Chiefs. Finally, tomorrow we have a game. And that is
interesting, just getting back to the 1 seed for the AFC.
Yeah, well,
it could be the Chargers that cost the Chiefs another win that means that they miss out on the 1 seed down the track if they are playing that well. So it is going to get interesting there.
Yeah, 100%. It's exciting to see. I love. We've always enjoyed Herbert's football and the way he goes about it. I mean, we did kind of shit on him a little bit at the start of the season that he wasn't quite playing the way he was. New coach, new system. It's just showing that 11 weeks in, it's a different type of footy.
And they've kept him healthy enough. He's not held together with sticky tape quite the level he was in previous seasons.
And he doesn't have a number 1 receiver, I don't think. Like Lad McConkey's only 4'3", but is taking catches down the field. He's awesome. They've got Johnson. They've got Will Dissly, who played 8 seasons or something in Seahawks. He's had more touchdowns for the Chargers than he did for the Seahawks. So yeah, I like it. It's good times and exciting times. They're just flying under the radar, the Chargers. For the 3rd time, a game tomorrow.
just quickly on the Chiefs. just quickly on the Chiefs. For them to continue and hold out on having this winning record. Yeah, as you said, Charlie, they're facing the Panthers. Then after that, it's the Raiders. Not too worried. Following that, you got the Chargers. They lost to the Raiders last year. Yeah, so let's chalk it up as a loss. But then you got the Browns, Texans, Steelers would probably be another one where they're going to really push the Chiefs because that defense is so elite and the Chiefs' offense isn't quite there yet. Yeah. And finishing with the Broncos.
Yeah. And the Broncos could knock them off at the end as well. That'll be. I called it last week. It'll be a huge Week 18 game against the Broncos. For the 4th time, we have a game tomorrow. I do understand that the game stinks. It stinks enough that Danny Boy, we've almost said, again, 2nd week in a row, we're going to be very wary on what we're actually betting on in this game because it is the 6-4 Texans with a -7.5 head start against the 3-6 Cowboys with who knows actually playing. 71% of people are on the Texans at $1.26. It does not surprise me one bit. It's a scary game. Danny Boy, as far as punting, if I was to be doing anything, I'd be getting on Joe Mixon. The Cowboys' rush defense sucks. Joe Mixon could have a day out. So 60 seconds, Danny Boy. Who's going to win and why?
The Texans are going to take this out. Cowboys are far too banged up. Their season is done. So, yeah, if you're going to do anything, the Texans and Mixon. But also be careful in case they do blow them out. You don't want them to drag all the players before it actually gets the 4th quarter. So just be tentative. I just don't think it's the smartest game to be punting on, to be honest.
Yeah. Charlie, 60 seconds. Who wins? Why?
I actually think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think the Cowboys can stop the run at all. And not just this season, last season as well. They're not built for it. Whatever defensive master plan they have in mind, it doesn't exist on the field, and I think that will be the difference. Stroud's been patchy the last couple of weeks, and I'm not just saying that because I've got him in the fantasy team. He has been patchy, and they've got some key receivers out or coming back from injury, but they can run the ball, and I think they showed also against the Lions their defense can really hold up against a tough attack. And, the Cowboys are not a tough attack. So I think they'll be okay.
Yep, definitely. I think I'm not sure if Collins is back. That'd be one to keep an eye on. Might try and feed him the ball a little bit if they are. CJ had his best first 3 quarters that he's had in a month last week. So if he can swing that again, it could be quite a bit of a blowout. Danny boy, 7.5 is the line. Is that enough for you to pick the Cowboys at 7.5?
Absolutely not. No.
Charlie?
No, absolutely not.
We're saying plus 7.5. Maybe that's one that you look at. Bit of a smelly game. So that's all right. See you boys, hopefully, in the next couple of days to talk about week 12, which is hard to fathom.
I've got some good news.
Uh-oh.
Bills have the bye, so I'm going to keep it really short this time around.
Yeah.
I can pick another team to know about. Be much briefer. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well done to all of our teams. Go the Packers.